Hello YouTube. People were asking me for updates on this Ej22 NA2 turbo conversion. It's been about 6 or 7 months now since this has been done. Did a few more functional mods, and I can go over those, and I'll go over the aesthetic ones real quick too. Don't know if those were updated, just to show you where the car's at. But as of right now, car's running great. I only drive it about couple times a week, so this is kind of like the fast grocery getter, if you will. I mean, for the most part, it's kind of just like a toy. But let me go over what I have so far. RS bumper. It's kind of the staple for these cars, with a lip there. Just an eBay lip. I'm going to try to keep it pretty cheap. You can see here that I got some green wheels on it. These are actually the V7 STI, the version 7 STI wheels. They should be gold. They come gold. But whoever had them before me decided to paint them lime green. So that's why I was able to pick them up for about $200. It was $200 exactly, actually. And normally those go for much higher, $600, $800 with tires. And they're 17 by 8. I was able to get the tires as well, kind of wider tires, for pretty cheap, $100 for pretty much brand new tires. So all said, $300 for some 17 by 8, 17 by 8 with 235. Hold on, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there we go. 235, 45. Tires, which on these on the older body styles, you're going to get a little bit of rubbing if you don't do a little slight roll, at least, which I rolled here. Didn't actually pull, just kind of rolled. And if you don't know what the difference is, a pull is actually pulling the fender out. A roll would just be, there's a lip right here that kind of sticks out straight, and instead of it letting it stick out straight this way, you're kind of pushing it up a little bit. So I don't know if I can get a good picture of that up there, but yeah, you can see it's kind of, so the tire, obviously when the suspension goes up and down, it has a better chance of, not scraping. This up here, pretty much the same thing, just had to do a mild roll. It does kind of rub sometime in like really hard turns. You can even see right here, it's pretty close to the fender liner. Not a huge deal, but yeah. You can see it's wet. Welcome to the Northwest. Just pulled it inside. Northwest winters are nice. They bring quite a bit of rain. Okay, so now I can go over what's been done in here. Probably used to seeing this motor by now. Did a few things. I'll start on this side. First is, you can see here, these terminals look a little bit different. They're actually quick disconnects. The reason I do that is, the reason I have that is because kind of like a theft deterrent. In the Northwest, these cars are plentiful, and they get stolen actually really easily. I mean, because the window doesn't really have a seal that goes up that connects to the door. It connects to the car once you shut it, so you can easily just pull that window back, or thieves can if they want to take your car. This car is actually, before I owned it, it's a salvage title, which is, I got it cheap. The reason it was salvaged because it was stolen actually twice. Which is, in this area, it just happens quite a bit with these older GFs or GCs, because they're just so easy to pull the window back. So again, that was kind of a theft deterrent to kind of prevent. But if somebody opens up the window and realizes there's no power, they're going to pop the hood and connect the terminal. So it's kind of a mixed bag here. So I have a keyless entry or an alarm system as well. Put that in. I can post a link to that. It's kind of like a Viper system. And with that keyless entry, it actually has auxiliary ports on there. So when it locks, you can do things with those auxiliary ports. Send, negative, positive feeds where needed. So actually I have the spark and the fuel pump hooked up to that as well. Someone's probably going to steal my car because I'm laying this out, but it's hidden pretty well throughout the car. That actually have to, do quite a bit of work to find out where all it is. I think it would take somebody probably it took me about an hour to get there, so But yeah, so if they get into the car, try to start it, the first thing they're going to do is like, oh, there's no power, so they'll come and connect the battery. When they connect the battery, the alarm or keyless entry is armed immediately, so it defaults to armed. And if they try to start it, the car will start for a second, but because there's no fuel, it'll just die in like 2 seconds. So I've actually, because I keep on forgetting about it, the only reason I would do both, like I just said, on quick disconnect the battery and hit the keyless entry, is because like I'm leaving it parked in our driveway for like weeks. We're going on a trip or something like that. That's the only reason I would do that for the most part. I mean, I never have to do that, but I'm just a little bit scared, and I'm a tinkerer. That's what it boils down to. I don't think I really have to worry about it. I don't think people are going to. We're kind of tucked away in our neighborhood, but still, just did it just for that. I can post the links to the keyless entry system. It was just, I say it's for theft deterrent, but really it's because I like screwing around with stuff. So with that said, other stuff. On the GFs, they actually have, you can see the washer reservoir, they actually have 2 pumps on the washer reservoir. One goes all the way back to the hatch, so you can have water being sprayed on the hatch with that wiper back there. I've never used that once, so I mean, I don't think I've even used a wiper blade, let alone the sprayer. So I use that second pump, rigged a line up to go to the splitter here. This is the intercooler splitter. And you can see, again, this is hot glue. And it's not the cleanest. I did have to bend this out just because it was getting close to the blow-off valve, because it's not meant to go there. But I just hit the button that you would normally use for the rear sprayer, and then it's going to spray on the intercooler. Again, the benefit of that, especially in like a place that's normally pretty cold, it's just a tinker thing for the most part. Just bored playing around. But if you're in like a hot climate, like I used to live in Florida, that would be a good place for an intercooler sprayer when you're going to see a lot of heat soak, just because it's always so hot. There's that. Actually made a block off plate for the blow off valve. So behind the blow off valve, I put a piece of metal to where there was actually no bypass. So basically, there was nothing. The air that was not being used, releasing during shifts, was just going back and backspinning the turbo. Which I took the block off plate out. It's over here, but I realized that when I took it off, the exact same noise was being made with the actual blow off valve, because I've crushed this so far. You can tell I've just beat it with a hammer to where it won't. If it does open, it's so minute that it will barely let off any air. It probably doesn't have the power to do that, which I'm fine with. I know people who don't run blow-off valves at all, and as you probably saw over there, I have a spare turbo. So I picked that one up for $20, and it's got no shaft play. So, and a turbo swap would be, take me probably about an hour tops. So next, this piece right here, again, not a huge modification. I was just running like a plastic tube. This is more of the bypass, or the valve cover bypass tube that you normally get on WRXs. Makes it a little bit cleaner. I mean, not that my motor is extremely clean or anything like that. What else? Okay, I guess I can show underneath the car. That's where the big stuff happened. So we have here an unequal length header. Picked this up for about $120. I don't know why I keep saying about. It was $120 off OfferUp, which is crazy because single port unequal length header is very difficult to come by, especially for cheap. $120 is pretty cheap. It had a little bit of like surface rust. I just ground that off with like a wire brush, and then painted it, and then wrapped it. And as you can see, everything's wrapped. The header, the up pipe, and then even the down pipe's wrapped. So it gives me that. An unequal length header will give you the sound that you're normally used to with like WRXs or STIs. Currently there was an equal length header, so that sound that you're used to with you can tell a Subaru's coming. is because the length of the runners from the header is unequal length. Like one will be shorter than the other. This is the old header, and you can tell just by looking at it, they look to be pretty much the same, and they're equal length headers. So it's going to sound closer to a Civic than a Subaru. Again, that sound that you get is because, and it's kind of weird, that because it's less kind of efficient. Actually, it's one side is has a further distance to go. The other side's shorter, and they kind of meet in the middle. And when they do, it gets that classic Subaru sound that people, misconstrue sometimes for, a vehicle missing if they're not used to it. But yeah, it's definitely that Subaru sound that you're used to. Depending on, the exhaust you have. I don't have a really loud exhaust. I have an 06 WRX exhaust now. It's a stock one. So again, it's pretty quiet, unless I really get on it. But even then, it's like with a catless downpipe, it's pretty quiet. Show that, I guess. You can see that? Painted it black and just left the tip chrome, just because I like to keep it a little bit sleeper. This is the other thing I'm working on. So this is a STI mid pipe, and then this is a cutout from eBay. I think this is like $40. Right now I still have some adjustments to make because I'm not welding it because I try to do everything by myself, not going to a welder. I really need to learn how to weld. These are exhaust clamps and little exhaust adapters. I put it on, it doesn't leak, but the issue is with this gap, it's actually touching the resonator. And there's no real problem with the exhaust exiting here. It's not going to really screw up the resonator from the outside. But this piece is actually too long. So it's like probably about an inch too long. And what that does is it pushes the muffler way too far back. So the muffler actually comes out and it's like jammed up against the bumper. So I need to take about an inch off of this. I just haven't got around to doing it. But once I engage the cutout, it's got like a remote switch that my daughter likes playing with. It makes the car very, very, very loud, obviously extremely loud. But with that as well, you can actually taper it to where you can pick the right sound that you like. And that's what I've always liked about cutouts. Again, you can make it super loud. You can make it just as quiet as stock, and then kind of everywhere in between. So eventually I'll go back to that. I just have a little bit more work to do with it. So that is pretty much it. Guess I can show the interior and where that sits. And there hasn't been much done in here besides the shift knob. And the gauges up here, it got like a triple pod. I have single cups coming. This was just in the meantime. eBay for those single cups is taking about 2 months to get here, so that was just in the meantime. I was just using those. The other thing that was done was actually about a month ago, I replaced the clutch with a competition gravity clutch, which is kind of like their stage 1. I think I got the box here. Yeah, you can see it. So clutch works. Clutch is nice. Haven't really got on it too much over the past month because I'm kind of breaking it in. But I was worried that my stock clutch wouldn't last that long because of the amount of power I was adding to it. When I took it off, it looked like it had seen better days. So I actually replaced the flywheel and the clutch as well, and the pilot bearing, obviously, and the throw-out bearing. But all that said and done was, I want to say $350. The clutch was like $280. I picked up the flywheel for like $20, and then like little pieces to like while the motor was out, I cleaned. So I needed to buy some various things to clean up. There's that. I would recommend you change your clutch out. It may last you for a little bit, depending on how many PSI you're running. I'm only running 7. But yeah, you should definitely probably replace the clutch. 2 more things as I'm figuring this out as I go. Show the turbo. These are actually these are white line steering rack bushings, and I bought those bad boys because I am replacing the power steering rack probably next weekend. While I was changing out the clutch, realized there was a little leakage. I thought it may be coming from the separator plate on the back of the block, and I replaced that. and it was already replaced to the metal one. It wasn't the cheap plastic one they normally put on that, but I replaced it anyway, kind of sealed it up, and I still was getting a little bit of leaking, and it turns out that was from the power steering pump. I thought oil was leaking onto that and then finding its way down, but it was just leaking from the power steering. So I'm replacing the power steering rack, replacing the tie rod ends, and replacing the ball joints while I'm in there as well. So kind of giving the whole car a little bit of a makeover in terms of the functional components on the front steering, at least. Need to replace a little bit more on the back. Got a WRX wagon sway bar, but I can definitely upgrade some of the bushings back there, give it more of a tighter feel. Last thing, promise. The other thing, I don't know if I went into depth on this in other videos. This is actually an FPR, a rising rate FPR. Pretty easy to install. The big thing is this is a 6-to-1, I believe, and maybe an 8-to-1. That's kind of irrelevant. The reason being is because I think it's the map based builds really need more of a higher rising rate and FPR with a higher value. And what that means is with like an 8-to-1 or 12-to-1, that's kind of how much fuel it's letting go back into the motor. So the higher the number, 12-to-1, more fuel, so richer air fuel ratios. So I needed like barely any. I was running like a high 11 AFR. I didn't want to go. Sometimes I would dip into the 12s, which kind of worries me. Some people run that. I'm not going to run that. So I brought a 6, I believe, could be an 8. And the way they do that is the different ratios, like 8-to-1, 12-to-1, are based off a plate that goes inside of the actual FPR. So regardless of which one you buy, you can actually buy different plates and change, the ratio there. So what I did was about a 6-to-1, we'll say, actually cut up the plate. So trimmed around the plate, kind of made it as circular as I could. And the reason being is the smaller the plate, the less the ratio. So I couldn't find like a 2-to-1. I had to kind of make my own. And when I did that, again, made it as circular as possible, kind of kept it in the middle. And in so doing, was able to keep the air fuel ratios around 11.2. Sometimes I dip into the 10s, 10.9 or so. So I would recommend one. You may not need it. It was like $120. It's kind of pricey depending on your AFRs. On my previous build, I didn't need it. I was running like a low or a mid 11, so I didn't feel like I needed to do that. But for kind of like peace of mind, I would probably recommend that. It's up to you. Okay, that's pretty much it. I may post a video about the power steering rack install. Not too difficult of an install. Just drop the headers and then just drop the rack pretty much after you bang everything out from the hubs. And probably maybe post a video of the car actually running again with the just doing a quick run, 30 to 80. I'm not going to do it now. It's raining and I don't want to really press my luck. So again, people have been asking me questions. If you have any more questions, I try to respond like at least in a couple weeks, sometimes the same day. Let me know. All right, thanks.